Hey everyone, welcome to Magic in the Matrix. I am your co host, Kelsey White, and here is
Alexander J. Fox.
Hey. Okay, guys, it's our inaugural Q&A episode. We're going to do it once a month. I am so excited. We have some super good questions, but starting with a really, really interesting one.
Mm.
If you had to be a beverage, what would you be? That one wasn't given to us. That just came
This-
to me.
a root beer float. That would be so much fun to be a root beer float.
Wow. Coming out the gates with a root beer float.
It's
Any
fun.
any
I find
rationale
it,
or just vibes?
the way it looks, the way it vibes, the way that I can just like float and fizz and just be a pleasant dessert for people.
Yeah, smooth. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
How
God,
about you?
what would I
Ooh.
be? It would have to be something like unexpected and punchy and what would I be? Help.
Hmm.
What do you think?
For you?
Yeah. It's got to be
Hmm.
unexpected. It's got to be like surprising, right? Like when people meet me, they're like, whoa, like energy.
A mocktail cosmopolitan.
Oh, oh, she fancy, fancy. I
Hmm.
love that. Okay. I think that's the elegance and purity of me
You
encapsulated beautifully.
you would vibe so well being at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. That's the hotel you should stay at.
I don't think I could. All right. I went to a Kelly Clarkson concert in Las Vegas last year and then almost fainted because the energy wasn't compatible with mine. Not Kelly Clarkson because she's amazing, but just the Las Vegas city was too
Mm.
much for me. I was overstimulated. There was a lot going on that wasn't my way of being. So I crashed out in Las Vegas. Like I was with two friends
It,
and
it makes sense. You ever heard
but
of you ever heard of the vagus nerve that's like inside our body?
oh yeah. Oh yes.
So think about it like this. Las Vegas, Las Vegas. You literally lose um your connection to your vagus nerve when you're in Las Vegas because you're partying so hard. So you become unconscious. Like,
All right, guys, I wasn't partying. I am sober, but the vibes of partying and unconscious energy was so far from where I was that I was like
mhm.
woozy. It's a thing where if I am around people drinking, I'm like, I start to feel like, whoa.
It's
And
real.
I got hungover after a Halloween party last year too, but that's a different story. We're getting to our questions. I want to do an episode on the vagus nerve though, so that's coming up.
We'll make it happen.
We're starting our real questions with a doozy.
Ooh,
Okay. What is a spiritual awakening?
love this question.
It's so good. It's so good.
Probably my favorite question. So for me, to keep it very simplistic sounding, is when a moment arises when it makes you realize that there's more to this world than that meets the eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We believe in magic here, clearly. Magic in
Mhm.
the Matrix. I think that's good. That's so good, right? Like it doesn't need to be something that's so esoteric and so unattainable for the masses. It's just like, yeah, there's more to it than just what's exactly in front of you. Very, very well said. What was your spiritual awakening?
Oh, there's so much that comes up from this or like that led up to it.
Mm-hmm.
But a long story short, I was in Scotland, Edinburgh, and me and a few friends, we were hiking up Arthur's Seat, which is about 800 feet in the air. And so nothing wild. And we ended up having like a dance party, like on top of the mountain. Like people are playing music and we're getting videotaped and we get on YouTube. It's fun. And we hiked down the opposite way we came up. And then me and my buddies split from our other friends and we reached a fork in the road where we could have hopped this wall, go across a golf course, and we'll be back at our Airbnb in 5 minutes, where we can walk around the golf course. We'll be home in 30. And I was like, dude, I don't even care if we get in trouble. I just want to go home. So we just he propelled me up the wall, and then I was able to lift up his arm, and then I carried him over, go across the golf course. We go through this parking lot and onto this side street, and it is super quiet. You can just hear our footsteps. And then all of a sudden, I stopped walking. And then my vision turns black and white. And then I hear wind chimes in my right ear. And then I turned around looking down the street. And then I realized that I had been here before. I had dreamt of that moment in my dreams while sleeping.
Wow.
And it came true in this reality.
Wow.
And I broke down and I started crying. And I was so confused. I was so lost. And my buddy, he's just looking down at me. He's like 6 foot. And he goes, dude, we just like hiked a mountain. Like, why are you crying? And I was like, you're not going to believe this, man. And it happened every day for 30 days on my Euro trip through
What?
Scotland, England, Belgium, Amsterdam, Germany, Czechoslovakia, Paris. And I was like, okay, this was a trip, yo.
Wow. Wow.
And then, because like everything I did, I was like, I remember this. I remember doing all of this. Even though I couldn't predict what was going to happen, it was just like, I'm reliving this whole life. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that is an incredible story. Question: how did you feel when you stopped getting that like resonance or remembering? Like, did that feel abrupt and overt, or you were just kind of integrating in and that wasn't a big deal?
um, it hasn't stopped.
Oh,
It's happened every day since May 25th of 2018.
wow.
It's happened like every day. And it just depends on the vibration that I'm
Yeah.
vibrating at or what my environment's at. And some of them are way more potent than others. It just
Yeah.
really depends on what's happening internally and externally.
Yeah. So you're saying like every day you just have some remembrance or inner knowing, like I'm aligned on this path and I've been here before.
Yes. And also maybe being on a path that I shouldn't be on, because
Oh.
sometimes it can feel like heavy. And I'm just like, oh,
Mm.
I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Like I've had moments like where I arrive at places and I'm just like, nope, I'm not supposed to be on this timeline. And then like maybe I'll go to like another place and I'm like, nope, it's not this timeline. And then the next place I go to is like, oh, this feels right. I'm supposed to be here. And then magic happens.
Wow. Like you're on a date and you're like, not this timeline. Sorry, gotta go. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Wow. Wow. Okay. So in other words, and tell me if I'm wrong, I'm just trying to interpret what you're saying, because this is some big stuff. You have this like inner connection to your inner knowing that came online in this pretty abrupt way in this circumstance abroad, and that's kind of continued with you throughout your life ever since. Is that fair?
Yes. And I had never had a spiritual moment basically before that. Like
Wow.
I've heard of psychic mediums and some
Mhm.
astrology, but like nothing could prepare me for what I had went through. And it changed my whole world,
Wow.
everything inside and out. And it led me to where I'm at today, that moment.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing. That was fascinating. Also, the way you told that story, I was locked in. Like,
Thank you.
then what? The fence? Ah, the cops coming? No, that's beautiful. Very cool.
Yeah. And then how about you? What was the moment for you that made you realize that there was more to this world than that meets the eyes?
Okay, I love to show like the other side of this question as it relates to what an answer could be. And so I've been to retreats and spiritual meetups and spiritual classes and spiritual hangs. And this question comes up a lot, like, what was your spiritual awakening? Right? I'm sure you've heard it. And it's interesting for me, and it's much more nuanced for me than for most people, right? Like most people have, then I heard God speaking to me, or then blah, 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 like some big, yeah, aha moment. And like I was at the lowest of lows in my divorce, and I lost my job and my home, and then the fire, and this whole story. I had this much more subtle, just invisible string throughout my life. So I grew up fundamentalist Christian, like super, super conservative, strict Christian faith.
Hmm.
That, so you would think that this would have to be like such an overt pull out of that. But really, the religion in which I grew up just didn't resonate when I was younger. I was just like, such a psychic little kid and I was so attuned to energy, and I still am, if even if I'm in the matrix or whatever, I'm feeling so much. And I was like, goodness, this is supposed to be this place of like worship and God and love, but it's not. Like I can feel it, it's not.
Hmm.
And so I've always had this like inner truth and inner knowing, honestly, like a whole different train of thought is I'm like, am I a walk-in? Because I don't even remember not knowing this. But I had some exposure through this older sister of mine to like some mediumship things. And I very resonated with that. Like some really good mediums that maybe I should say like in integrity mediums that I'd been exposed to fairly young, where I'm like, okay, it very much makes sense to me that like this person connected with someone that had passed kind of from this physical realm, but they shared this message of love with their loved one. And I also, little me was obsessed with angel stories. Like
Mm,
I
cool.
drank up chicken soup for the soul. I live for chicken soup from the soul. And if there was like angel stories in a chicken soup for the soul book, I could even to this day could never get enough. And so I had these little like threads of like, oh, I know about these mediums, and I believe that there's a connection to energy beyond what we see. And like I
Mhm.
believe these angels or these forces of love can come in and subtly help us navigate our life. And then I had this like great desire to move to San Francisco. And what I had known of San Francisco when I was younger was very little, because I'm from, the suburbs of Chicago, hadn't traveled a ton, but I was like, it's like peace and love and art, which it wasn't as much by the time I got there. But I moved to San Francisco very, very shortly after. I did some other work stuff for a little bit, but I moved there as soon as I could move anywhere, and met some people at a peace festival that opened my world even
Mm.
more to some of the more like law of attraction, and here's what's going on in your energetic chakra of solar plexus, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
But those
Wow.
things, when I was meeting those communities of these conscious people fairly young, right? Like you would think fundamentalist Christian into, studying business at this school with a lot of, people that grew up that same way, off to San Francisco with these like highly conscious people, that must be jarring. No, I was just like, yeah, chakras, that makes sense, and law of attraction and quantum physics and spirituality. And so my path has continued to be very integrated. And that's why I'm like happy
Mm.
that we have these various perspectives, because you might be more me where you've just got this inner compass of spirituality that cannot be tampered, right? Like I or tempered. Yeah. I always have had this like unyielding flow of knowing that is sort of like this universal gift I allowed for myself in this incarnation from my perspective, because it wasn't this big. I've had all these other challenges I brought onto myself, but this inner knowing is not one of those. So I would say my spirit, every time I get this question in these groups, I'm like, I don't usually have this much time to share it, but it's just that flow of life that's always kind of been there with me.
Wow. It that doesn't happen to like a whole lot of people because a lot of that gets,
Especially,
yeah, a
of
lot of.
course.
Hmm.
Especially like if you're in this religion and you're in these traditional world, like I still work a traditional 9 to 5. Well, 8 to 8, whatever. But it's funny how that can be a path too, right? Like usually you hear,
Yeah.
then I went to school, traditional schooling, and it just got stomped out of me, or it wasn't accepted. I have this blessing of I don't care what's accepted. I'm gonna do me. So I think that's this offering I gave to myself, is like whatever resonates is true. You're just gonna believe and think. Whatever everyone else thinks doesn't matter.
And that attitude is powerful, like
Mm-hmm.
immensely transformative because like you stay true to who you are and like what felt great for you to just keep moving forward and put yourself in positions to, try new things to thrive. And you were not afraid to say no. And you always trusted yourself. That's
Thank you.
impeccable.
Thank you. Not always perfect, but believing in my angels, you couldn't beat out of me if you tried. I love you, angels. Okay, next question. I don't know if we're gonna top that, but we will try. That was fun. I could talk about spiritual awakenings all day. All right, the next question is, how do you meditate?
Ooh, there's a few different ways to meditate. You don't just have to sit there and just be like that yogi. If you want to
100%.
yeah, if you want to go for a walk, if you want to do the dishes, if you want to journal, if you feel like you maybe want to go swimming or even running, those are great ways to meditate because you're coming into presence, you're not thinking a whole lot, and you're just allowing what really wants to be and to come through, like not have any judgment and no worries or anything like that. And you're just being yourself and you're just in a regular flow state. So
Gorgeous, gorgeous. I think
yeah.
the presence is the most critical piece for those. So I at first thought meditation, like a lot of people, their first exposure to meditation is that like I'm sitting and I don't move for 12 hours and I'm this monk. I unequivocally agree that you can meditate swimming, walking. That's how I do it. But I think I want to underscore the presence part of it because if you're swimming and thinking about your to-do list, I'm not sure that that's like really achieving the like clarity and clear afterwards of the meditation process. It's about that like kind of decluttering your mental and physical space in some ways, your energetic space, I guess I should say. So if you're swimming, you're just being present with like your body in the water, like your breath. It's not like swimming and thinking about your to-do list, but you don't. That's like a butterfly breaststroke hybrid. I was a swimmer growing up, guys. I love swimming. You can absolutely meditate swimming, but yeah, I think that thought that hey, we have to just do one little thing, or I'm not good at meditating because I think too much. Like it could be whatever it is, but it's just more being present with it. Or even if you're thinking, instead of thinking about a million things, because I thought you had to think of nothing. I thought it was meditation literally was no thought. And I was like, no chance. And someone said, you could just think of like a mantra or one thought. Say you want to think about, I love my sleep. You could just kind of focus on I love sleep. I love sleep as like a
Mhm.
mantra over and over and get into that meditative state with the mantra, even
For sure. You also can just focus on your breath.
100%.
Some people may think, oh, that sounds so boring, but you'd be shocked at like the different states of consciousness that you can actually access just by and then just going even slower and deeper, just in and out through your nose and just close your eyes and just keep going inward. You may surprise yourself.
Oh yeah, I've experienced that. Breath work
Mm-hmm.
can be akin to like a psychedelic experience if you're doing it, and it could be less intense too. But yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
the fun stuff. I on the record, I've done a intensive breathwork session 101 with Mr. Fox here. Super like trippy, very 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 cool. Most importantly, very healing and clearing. So thank you for that. But gosh, breathwork is it's such an effective way to get into that meditative state. I love that answer. Cool. I like
Awesome.
those. I don't have any more, but if you have any more,
No, I think we're good there.
good.
That's
Good luck
great.
meditating, y'all. All right, next question. Ooh, this is a good one. So this is about kind of getting stuck in cycles. What do I do when I feel like my life is just stuck in a pattern? Same old on repeat.
Mm, I've experienced this way too much. And for me, because everyone's experience is going to be different, like their way of life, their friends, their beliefs, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I realized that I was doing the same thing every weekend, like partying and going out, and realizing we were doing it, in different locations, trying to do it in different ways, but still having the same thing. And I could legit predict what was going to happen that night. Like, oh, my new friend or my friend is going to get a new nickname because they love making fun of him, or they're going to start making fun of this dude because he's easy to make fun of, or my friend's gonna hook up with this
Oh,
girl. Um, it's like guys just making fun of each other, like, it goes back and forth. So it's
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
even. But I was like, wow, my soul is just like feeling heavy from this. And like I just
Yeah.
knew that change had to happen. So for me, I started to travel more. I started to get like these downloads of like, oh, you should drive out to Mount Shasta. And I lived in Cleveland, Ohio. So I legit drove from Cleveland in my Toyota, went all the way out west to Mount Shasta and Bend, Oregon. And I had 3 or 4 extra spiritual awakenings. I learned
Wow.
so much about myself and energy. And then when I came back to Cleveland, then my whole reality shifted. I ended up moving out of the house I was at into a more spiritual home like 3 months later.
Wow.
And then, yeah, it just like, then it took off for me, but I had to trust and surrender like no, like in no way or capacity that I had ever done before. And it pushed me to like my limits past that.
Wow. You are
But
excellent with trust and surrender.
thanks. Thank you. And how about you? What would you do if you knew you're going through the same old patterns and you knew change had to happen in your circumstances because you live a different life than I do?
That is right. So I'm here
Hmm.
for, and this is part of why we thought we'd be such an excellent team to share thoughts because we do have different life structures, right? I can't drive to Shasta just when I feel stuck. I have a job that I have to take PTO and I have a team relying on me and lots of meetings scheduled by the hour. So I'm happy
Mm.
to share a different perspective, although that sounds very fun. And I'd like to go to Shasta with you. So, also in a Toyota. It sounds like a reliable path. But no, for me, I really just have to kind of do a little bit more work just to get out of that rut, right? Like if every bit of my free time that I do have some more control over, I kind of do the same things with the same people. And I've experienced this. I get bored. I'm just like, it's kind of like you said, I feel like I'm hearing the same conversations. I know sort of what the vibe's going to be, the flow of whatever we're going to do. Or even like, I love exercise classes, but okay, it's going to be this exact same feeling and, work the same muscle groups probably or tiny tweaks to that. I'll feel the
Hmm.
same after, get the same food. I just try to like put myself in a wildly different scenario that day, right? So instead of going to this workout class with these people, maybe I sign up for a soap making class, which I've done. And I really like scents.
Wow.
So that was pretty fun. Or try
Cool.
to like kind of journal on what part paradigm I'm repeating and think about if that part of me I want to continue on with in a new way or sort of graciously release. So yeah, I think there's like a little bit of that like intellectual plus heart body work on like, is this okay? And maybe the paradigm doesn't need a wild shift, but your circumstances do sometimes because different people bring out a different part of your consciousness. That's just what I think. And that's what I think.
Ooh,
I center like my
ooh.
little quantum Barbiness so much. I'm just coming up with this on the fly, but this is powerful. I think I like to be in all these different scenarios and be so bought in and locked into them, right? Like my workouts and my career and my spiritual selves are not just dipping their toes in. Like give me the masters, the Reiki masters to talk about energy healing with. Give me like the fitness trainer, peak trainers in the city, and that's who I'm going to train with, or the pro athletes, I'm going to train with them. Let me get thought leaders and mentor with them. Let me go to a very challenging business environment with some of the, biggest business players in my city and do a deal. Like that's what I'm going to do. But I think it's really important to
Mm.
let like the part of my consciousness that wants to be expressed come out. Right. So even in my free time, if my consciousness is just bumping up against the same things, that doesn't work for me. So that's why I'll just try a class or talk to someone new or go join like a girls club, hike, walk, something like that. Just try stuff. But yeah, to TLDR, sometimes you can't just hop in a car and go to Shasta. I
No,
love that
not
though.
yeah, not everyone can. And that's okay. That's like why we have this contrast so people can get, both realities and see, maybe someone is just like, oh, I'm just gonna quit my job and I'm just gonna go to Shasta now, or
Yeah.
or someone's gonna be like, oh, well, maybe I'm gonna like take this simpler route and just try to like do
Mhm.
something new within my community or outside of that community, and just see what happens and how I feel when I do it.
Exactly. Then you can iterate, right? Like there might be a time where I want to quit my job and go to Shasta. And there might be a time when you want more structure and some groundedness of a more routine day to day that's scheduled out. I mean, who knows? But it's okay to try something and have that not be the perfect solution. But we're just here to show you there's many ways to achieve different outcomes.
For sure. Cool.
Ooh, okay. This next question might be the best on the list. It's kind of a doozy though. My best friend is going spiritual slash crazy. What should I do? What can I do?
Mm. I have experienced this on so many levels, and I'll give you just a tiny synopsis. So, my grade school friends, known them for so long. And when I started telling them about my spiritual awakenings in Scotland and Alabama and Mount Shasta, and some of them were like, "Oh, that sounds really cool, man." And then some other ones were like, "Dude, are you doing too many drugs? Like this isn't normal. Why are you having these experiences? Like I don't understand this. I'm like scared for you, bro, And some of them wanted to put me in a mental hospital. Yeah, it was really sad.
Mm.
But now I had a second group of friends who I would tell my awakenings to and my stories. And they said, Fox, we may not understand what you're going through. We may not even know how to like really help you or maybe even like support you in the ways that we may not know how to do that. But we care for you and we love you and we see that you're not going crazy, like you're still acting normal around us and you're still treating us with kindness and respect and you're still a good dude. So we may not know how to help you, but we're here for you no matter what's happening. And to me that was like everything that I didn't even know that I needed to hear.
Wow. That's beautiful.
And that friend group really like changed my life on so many levels, and I'm so grateful for them. Tom and Chris and Sam and Jefferson and Mike and Gabby, and Pat and uh, oh my god, Devin and Christian. I'm just so grateful for all
Shout
of you.
out, gang.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, good
and
job,
Sam
bro.
and Sam.
And many more, of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
So, and then I even had a third group of friends, and they were all like, "Oh my god, that's happened to all of us. We've all had spiritual awakenings. We could totally relate to you. Come hang out with us." And I'm like, "Oh my god, cool! I found my like real like soul tribe who can understand everything I'm going through and say I'm not totally crazy and can love and support me in all the ways and understand." So
Beautiful.
yeah, so I would say have compassion and do your best to understand or understand what your friend is going through and try not to have too much judgment, but allow them to share and be expressive and just be there for them. That's literally I think the most simple and best ways that you can do.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I like inner stand. We need to put a little underscore on inner stand. That's a good, I'm gonna use that. Yeah, I don't have tons to add. I'm trying to think from of if our listeners are the person that's having the spiritual awakening with their friends calling them crazy, or if they right like that's perspective, or they're the ones that they're like tuning in because they're like, what? I'm hearing about vibes and matrix from my friend. What's going on? I would say if you're perceiving someone as like really expanding in a way that's maybe jarring and scary to you, just love them. Like I was going to say just don't judge them and all these things like you said, but I think what your second crew did, even without knowing exactly the experiences you were having, they loved you. And I think it's a lot simpler sometimes to interact with people than we think. I think there's honestly a little bit of upside in maybe learning from them. I know that the people in my life that are so far from spirituality that even if I sometimes just broach some spiritual topics, they're not dismissive in a mean way, but they really aren't open to hearing anything. And sometimes I think like, what if you could learn a little bit? Like, what if a couple little nuggets of things that are really important to me could affect your life? So I would say leave the judgment at the door, bring all the love you can, and then maybe try to learn. I think that's like the one thing that you didn't cover that I wanted to cover is like
Mm,
be open enough to just hearing like they're your friend. Maybe they have something valuable to say, even if at first brush their new topics or spiritual endeavors seem kind of weird to you. I've met with spiritual people that were more kind of conscious than me at different phases of my life and
hmm
literally felt scared by some of the things they said. Like, that's a whole nother conversation, but I felt in my body a little bit of like, ugh. And maybe it was excitement that like my brain interpreted as fear. You know what I mean? Because in
mm,
hindsight, I don't know that
yes.
there was something to be afraid about. I felt in the moment from my brain like I'm freaked out. And then like years later, and I'd become more conscious and I'd expand in ways and realize what they had said was like this totally now to me very normal thing. But yeah, learning and being open goes a long way. And then number one, always love.
Yes. Oh, I love how you added that. Have that friend like learn from them and just,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not like a whole lot at first, but just see
Yeah.
like what's happening and just see like, okay, how can it make me feel? What can I learn from this? What can it show me? And how does it improve my life?
Of course. And caveat, right? Like if someone's in danger or something, that's a different story, but that's not what we're talking about. We're just
Hmm
talking about because a lot of us in the spiritual community have been through it or know someone who's been through it that, especially if you have that rapid spiritual awakening. I think I haven't had as much because it wasn't so rapid, but you gotta believe if someone's having the Shasta awakening, they're gonna freak their friends out. The Matrix. All right, we're almost done here. So this one is not as serious, but just to get some levity before we sign off. If you were to take yourself on a date, what would it be?
Mm, yes. I love this question.
This is fun. I don't know my
This is
answer. Let me think. Keep
awesome.
going, but you go first.
Okay, so my perfect ideal date for myself is me being back in Cleveland, Ohio, and I go to this restaurant. Okay, I'll say it, La Dolce Vita,
Ooh.
and I get a reserved seat so I can hear opera. And then I get myself a Birra Moretti beer, and then I also get a tiramisu and then a water with no ice and lemons. And then I just simply enjoy every sip and every bite and every note and every vibration very slowly and methodically for like the next 2.5, 3 hours.
Locked in with the bevies. Oh, that sounds so beautiful. Have you
It's
done that before? And that's just something you want to, oh, good for
Yeah.
you.
Oh, I
Good.
do every time I'm back in Cleveland. I've been doing it for like the last year. Anytime I'm back in Cleveland, out with family and holidays, like I take that Monday night to myself and I just go where the night takes me with that.
Treat yourself. Yes.
Hmm
I love it.
Yes. And how about you? What is a date night for yourself that you would thoroughly enjoy?
So mine's gonna have to be like a date afternoon because I am not a night gal. Mama is a sleepy bear. I think I'm gonna keep it simple because well, I'm not a simple gal, but my date night is so lunch is gonna be green juice and a Buddha bowl, right? Like if there's like an ancient grains or a Buddha or some mix of those bowls you could order, I'm in.
Hmm
And then I'm going to go get a 90-minute massage. And the pressure is going to be deep and pretty deep. Like it's going to be an athletic massage, but not necessarily on my date night for myself. Like the pain part, just like right to really getting everything out. But 90 minutes chilling, hydrate after, all zened out. And then last stop to the metaphysical shop, look around. I literally have like amethyst essential oil, check out all the smells and the crystals and the little oracle
Mm.
decks. See if they have like notes about an astrology thing coming up. Talk to someone about it. And I'm gonna go hug my dog and definitely go to bed by like 8.
That is a lovely and very fun and healthy date that you get to put yourself on.
Yeah. Self-care. We'll get to astrology, but I'm a Taurus sun, Taurus moon, and Taurus Venus. So I'm like food, smells, touch, dogs, home. Yeah. Man, that sounds
Ooh.
good. With that, I think I should take myself on a date to my bed. What do you think?
Yeah, it's about that time now.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to our inaugural Q&A mailbag. That was really fun. So please like, subscribe, share, send questions because we're going to do this once a month. I think it could be very cool if we were discussing your questions. So please do that. Send them through in the comments and we'll get to them next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to Magic in the Matrix. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all. Take care. Bye.